Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today's video we're going to show you how your coaxial helicopter should behave when it's taking off. Now, a couple of things when you're flying indoors. If you have a forced air furnace, it's going to mess with your helicopter, especially when they're small like this. This is the Skyline U6 helicopter. So as far as size-wise goes, it's approximately about a foot long. So it's not overly small, but it's not overly big. You know what I mean? So it's decent for flying indoors with. It's said that it can fly outdoors too, but I'd only do that on extremely low wind days. It just doesn't have the tail rotor speed to really do a whole lot once you get up there. So calm to no wind works perfect for this size of a helicopter. But I wanted to show you how they should react because I got a message on one of my videos about a guy's helicopter that would go sort of backwards on him and not go forwards, and got me kind of curious and interested. So I thought I'd do this video to show you how these things should actually behave. The one thing that you know when you're taking off is don't jet to the sky type of thing. Let it gradually lift off, but you don't have to go slower than a snail. So let's zoom out here, and I'll try and get as much as I can into the camera. I'm running this by myself, so it may disappear out of the view. But the first thing you want to do is start it up and then set your trim so that it stops moving on you, or as much as possible. And then just gradually build your speed up. And try not to crash. Let me go grab that thing. Christmas tree's a little close. We'll have to take off a little bit quicker. There we go. So add a little bit of extra throttle on the main takeoff, but just don't floor it. And then once you're up in the air, you can solve the rest of your spin issues if you have any. So let's land this thing again. Oh, I tried to go backwards and stop. You gotta love bloopers on a video, it's kind of fun. So anyway, start out. Now mine usually hits the air at about half throttle. And it should take off rather smooth. So if it is going backwards on you on takeoff all by itself, now this is without the back rotor blade moving, then you've got some tail weight going on. So you're going to have to add some nose weight. So one of the first things I would do for the nose weight is I'd pull the canopy off and check the position of your battery. It actually sits in a little holder, and it's usually, on this one, it should be pretty much about centered anyways for weight distribution. But you can move the battery forward a little bit and then just hold it in with some double-sided sticky tape or Scotch tape. Electrical tape works too. And move the battery forward a little bit if it's going backwards on you on takeoff. Now if you don't have any forward drive at all from the back tail rotor, well then you've got other issues which we've talked about in another video on repairing the remotes for these helicopters, and to check out the remote end first before messing with the helicopter. But if you do actually need to add nose weight because you can't move the battery too far forward, because they're all different size of batteries and sometimes you have room, sometimes you don't, then you're going to want to get some basically putty plasticine stuff and jam that into the nose, and start with little amounts first, like very little, because you don't want too much forward nose on that thing. Otherwise you're going to have a lot of problems, and it doesn't take much weight at the nose to actually balance things out. So, but why you would have a tail drag right off the top, I have no idea. But if you do have, like I said, a forced air furnace, the furnace is running, you can be 10 feet away from it. It can actually interfere with your takeoffs, your flights. Ours puts out an awful lot of air in the house, so it really messes with the smaller helicopters a lot. So I usually wait until the furnace isn't running before I fly them, but I haven't had a lot of issue with this one, with the furnace running. So just try to move forward a bit here. So once again, we're about here, and I'm going to just goose it to about halfway on my stick. And it should take off rather nicely. And it should hover well. Now one thing you might notice is when you're idling up, you got a little bit of spin here, right? So just adjust your trim till it stops as best as possible. You may not get it 100%, but you'll get it close enough. Take off. Get into a hover and see if you have any more spin, which I do. So I'm going to adjust for that. So now I've got my spin taken care of. Now you'll notice when I'm idling here now, I have no spin when I'm up in the air, but I have some spin here going on. And a lot of that has to do with the fact I'm on a very smooth surface. If you're on a carpet or a not so smooth surface, you wouldn't get this going on. But once you start throttling up, you'll see it starts to stop. It doesn't spin like that anymore. And if you start dragging backwards like that, whoops, crashed. You start dragging backwards like that on a really smooth surface, that's a lot of your wind currents that get involved, and you've got to get away from that. So you've got to get up in the air, obviously, because the closer you are to the ground, believe it or not, these things can actually move out pretty fast. I've done this with bigger helicopters where, you know, I'm flying really super close to the ground. I'm really pushing it, but I can gain some pretty good speed because not only do I have my tail rotor pushing its wind out when I'm moving forward, but I've also got the blades on an angle too going against the ground. But when you're higher up in the air, you get rid of that extra wind force that's close to the machine. So, you know, your speed gets reduced, right? And it's just the way the wind currents work. So, you know, so hopefully that answers your question as to what happens when you've got some backwards drag. So it could be you are on too smooth of a surface, could be your idle up isn't high enough to stop it previous to takeoff, you know, so that could be what's causing it. Now if you're actually moving backwards while you're in the air and you're not even moving your tail rotor at all for forward or backward, that's a weight distribution issue that needs to be addressed. Now, this is my second U6 I've had. My first one was a blue one, but this one is my newest one, and with neither one of them, I never had any problems with tail weight issues, okay, or being dragged backwards well in the air. On a smooth surface, on the idle up, yeah, you can be dragged around a bit. It's just the way things go. So, but if you bring your idle up a little higher, as you've seen, it can stop that from happening. But in-flight stuff, being dragged backwards, could be your furnace is kicked in if you're flying in the house. Definitely a windy day, wind goes the wrong way, it's pushing any helicopter backwards. Even my biggest helicopter, which is about a 400 class size helicopter, which is your SO-31 and SO-31Gs, those things can be pushed backwards by wind. You know, it's just the nature of the beast, you know what I mean? But if you do have the drag issue in the house, your furnace isn't on, you don't have, you know, air conditioning on in the house, that sort of stuff, flying indoors, and you're just being dragged, period, then you can rule out all that stuff, and you've got a tail weight issue that could be going on if you're trying to hover and you're just being dragged in reverse. So you need to get that front weight rebalanced. And being that, you know, 90% of these helicopters are all built in China, a lot of the ones I find batteries are not in the right placement, especially in the small helicopters. They're never placed properly, so you can either have a swimming action going on, you could end up being too nose heavy, that sort of stuff. So sometimes you do get the odd helicopter that does react this way, and it's not that there's a problem necessarily with the machine, it's just somebody messed up when they threw the battery in the sucker. So, real easy fix. But anyways, if you have any other questions, comments, you know, that you need answers to, I'll do the best I can to answer them. But this is the basics and how your helicopter should react. You know, on takeoff, it should be really smooth. It shouldn't be, you know, dragging its rear end backwards, you know, or flying itself forward. But you will have that drag if your idle is too low on a very smooth surface like mine's on now. But like I showed you, you can stop that by just idling up a little higher. You know, and don't goose it to the floor on takeoff. You know, I mean, yeah, you can do it, but you shouldn't do it. Some helicopters can actually take off really super fast, and then you're hitting the ceiling and causing damage to probably your helicopter. But anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Enjoy.